What is the way of the superior man?
Brannon, how's it going, man?
Ah, it's good. I
It's
hate to give that answer. It is good, whatever
it's
it is.
what
So, yeah.
according to Dr. Paul, who we just had on Monday, it is what it is, and that's
It
all that
is
really
what it
matters
is.
anyway.
Yes, that's all.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to start answering. Like, it is just what it is, and I'm positive about that.
I had like a funny thing, after we talked to him on Monday, I went with my kids. They're all in town for the holiday coming up tomorrow, and I started teaching them about the principles that we talked about on that episode, and I was really going overboard with the is what it is. And we went into Tropical Smoothie Cafe to get smoothies, and they're like, "Well, you should get this one. This is the best one. You should get this one." And I said, "I actually don't make my decisions based only on preference anymore. I just I just let things be what they are." So I get up to the counter and they're all ordering theirs, and I kind of like, I think I'm inclined to go with this one, but I asked the guy behind the counter, I'm like, unless you think there is one that is absolutely just the most amazing one. And he's like, I got one for you. And he gave me some like flavor I'd never had before. And I like tasting all of the different smoothies with my kids afterwards. Mine actually tasted probably the worst, but I was just over the top with like, this is the perfect smoothie for me in this moment right now. Like
You were positive about it.
I
Yeah.
love this smoothie. This is exactly what I needed right now.
Yeah.
My kids were just like, Dad, shut up,
That's like it's like all the ice on my windows this morning when we came to drive here. It's like, that's perfect. It is what it is. It's amazing. I sat there and chipped it off for like half an hour. It's awesome.
Your life is so much better now.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, just a couple reminders. If you're on live with us, um, please make comments. Let our guests know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Um, last episode we had some comments that I think really helped and really hit our guest hard in a positive way, in terms of him feeling the love and the empathy. So, um, yeah, we'd love to have your comments, as if you're here on YouTube with us.
Just another reminder too, we've been getting questions. We will be recording live for anyone who wants to participate live Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. So those are the recording times. We'd love to have you jump on and join us.
Yes. Okay, Tyler, we have one of our favorite people here with us today. So, Ben, is this number three that you've been on with us?
This is four.
This is number four. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Um,
I'm almost making it into co-host status.
um, yeah, it's good having you. Every time we have you, it's good having you. So I'm glad you're
Thanks.
back.
Yeah, it's
Um,
good to be back.
last time we broke down, you had a lot of questions about plant medicine.
Hmm.
Um, and since then, I think you've gotten a lot more educated about plant medicine.
Yes, yes, I have.
um, in in uh, in some experiential ways, right? So
Yes.
I just want to check in with you. Like, how was it? What was your journey like? How has it been?
So got to go with you actually, and a
Hmm.
group of awesome people this past April down to Peru, and was able to enjoy a couple different plant medicine journeys, San Pedro and ayahuasca, and those were, I mean, truthfully, I'm still processing a lot of the stuff from that. The biggest experience, I think the biggest benefit that I got was during the ayahuasca journey. I felt super connected to the. Um, sorry, guys.
Hmm.
I felt super connected to the divine feminine, and I've been able to carry that with me pretty well for a while now, and that's been really good. I've been able to tap into that when I've needed it, and it's learning the different feeling of the divine feminine versus the divine masculine has been really helpful. And it's been there have been times when I've been struggling and I've been able to sit back and think, okay, do I need to tap into the masculine for this, or do I need to tap into the feminine? And having that option has been really empowering,
Yeah.
and being able to recognize that the divine doesn't just show up in one way, you know.
Ben, if I can comment on that, I just you know, the group that we took down to Peru and the experience we had down there, it's pretty crazy how across the board, everybody had some kind of experience with the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And down in Peru, they talk a lot about Pachamama and the divine feminine. Um and so I feel like sometimes I sound a little crazy because I bring up how important, you know, when we talk about connecting to God, I bring up how important it is to connect to femininity. Um, and the I sound a little crazy because a lot of people just don't understand what I'm actually talking about. And then when we go down to Peru and you actually feel the earth healing you, you feel the experiences and the nurturing and the just the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's when you have a lot of trauma that you're working through, and you have a lot of deep pain, that energy is what holds it for you.
Mm-hmm.
That energy is what helps you process it, and it's so essential to help move that energy out of you, rather than just trying to use force and control and results in masculinity to try to get it out of you. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Ben, and I'm it's really good to hear too that you're continuing to tap into that,
Mm-hmm.
continuing to nurture that relationship going forward. So
Thanks. And you know, while you're talking, I was thinking about, okay, you know, because it's for people that haven't had the opportunity to really experience it, it's difficult to describe.
yeah,
You know, like what you're talking about when you talk about, oh yeah, you got to tap into the divine feminine, and people look at you kind of sideways and like, what you talk about.
yeah,
Um, the way it feels for me is like with the divine masculine, I'm you know, you can be held, and it's strong and it's strength, and you feel that support. And with the divine feminine, when you're held, it's soft and it's nurturing and it's enveloping. And I think that's the biggest difference for me in how those sensations are.
yeah, yeah. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, Ben,
So, oh, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just gonna say I just appreciate you being willing to come back and sort of report on the journey you were just starting the last time we talked to you, and
Mm-hmm.
now hearing some of this and hearing how beneficial it's been to you, I think has been really really insightful. I'm wondering, before we move into your other question that we're going to get into today, is there anything else? I know these things can be kind of sacred and personal. Is there anything else you care to share with people in terms of your journey and your experience there?
Um, I think what I've learned is that plant medicine isn't necessarily for everybody, and if it is for you, the and your heart is open, you will find an opportunity, and you will be prepared, and the opportunity will come when you are ready.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the what I learned about plant medicine is that it's there for you when you need it, and you know, it will always be there for you when you're ready for it, and it will help prepare you for it.
Mm-hmm. You know, I want to ask you one more question before we move on. So it's been a little while, and you say you're still connecting to God in a different way.
Mhm.
But you know, how has your life shifted, or your perspective on life, or how you felt, or like what has changed for you since your journeys?
People that know me well know that I'm generally a pretty calm person, and you know, I work in the ER, and one of the things that I feel that I bring to that environment is the ability to calm the storm. And since since then, since going on the plant medicine journey, I feel like that part of me has been amplified, but even more so, like I feel like I can see people for who they are, much better. I can have a lot broader space for them to be who they are, and have that allow them and accept that, you know, how they're acting in a certain time frame is not reflective of me and what's
Mhm.
going on with me, and being able to to have a lot more acceptance of them. And it's really, I've really been able to solidify the belief that people always make the best decision that they can with the information that they have in that moment.
Oh,
And looking back on it, that may not have been the best decision, and it was still the best decision. People don't intentionally choose to make a decision that's going to be harmful to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I mean, as you say that, Ben, I just think, in a way, the plant medicine has just amplified who you already are. Because to me, you have a heart of gold. You exude empathy and support for others. Like you can feel that that's who you are. Is you're so good at supporting and loving others.
Speaking of hearts,
hey, oh, I love it. Nice.
I carry that with me wherever I go.
Nice. So anyways, Ben, it was awesome to go to Peru with you. So
thanks,
I really
man.
loved it.
I enjoyed it, and I look forward to hopefully having some more opportunities to go on trips like that.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. You had some thoughts, some questions. Maybe we just do kind of a review of.
Sounded like you had a bone to pick with you, Brannon.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I do a little bit. So in your Reclaim Your Heart group, you had recommended The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. And I was like, okay, I started reading it, and the first couple of chapters, I was like, this is bullshit. This is just some guy, spewing off stuff. I'm like, this is really dumb. And so I kind of
I did warn you though that you'd probably go through that phase, right?
Yeah, you did. And I put it down, and I'm like, okay, I can disagree with Brannon on this one. We're not the same person.
Yeah.
Brannon doesn't know everything. He's not omniscient, and so, but
that's true, Ben. That's so true.
I don't know how
to. But then what got me thinking about getting back into it actually was in group. Jordan had talked about how he wished that he had read that book earlier, because he felt like it would have completely changed his relationship with Maddie. And I was like, okay, that's two people that I respect that are like, hey, this book is life altering as far as relationships goes. And so I said, okay, let me get back into it. And honestly, I can only read a couple chapters at a time.
And the chapters are only like a page and a half.
I know. And that's one of the things that's so frustrating about it, is because like I'll read it and then it'll get me thinking, and I'll be like, okay, but that's not how I envision relationships. One of the biggest things that I'm feeling challenged to understand is that that women don't want us to have them be our number one priority. Yeah. And that is not something that I've learned. That's not something that's taught widely. And so I'm having a hard time kind of internalizing that and understanding how that applies in my life.
Dude, this is such a great question, Ben. I can't wait to get into this with you. I want to just back up really quickly and just say that when I read The Way of the Superior Man, Brannon recommended it to me, and I had the exact same response as you did. Like, this guy is a total tool. He's spitting like nothing but straight toxic masculinity. I'm like, I don't even think I can get through the first 10 pages.
I was expecting the forward by Andrew Tate somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly. It felt to me like, especially if you listen to it on Audible, the guy sounds like such a, he really rubbed me the wrong way. His voice did, like the tone of the book rubbed me the wrong way. And I really had to, it was like an exercise for me. And like, I've got to find the kernels of truth in this, because Brannon's giving this to me for some reason. I got to try to figure out what this is about.
Or at least prove him wrong.
Yeah. Or figure out all the ways that he's wrong. And if I'm being honest, Ben, there are a few things in that book that I really don't agree with. Still. And that's okay. But this particular one is one that also hit me in a weird way.
Mhm.
when I read that. It was like, wait a second, wait a second. Like we are taught growing up our whole lives, we are taught like you make your wife the number one priority. You cleave to her and none else. And and so when they read that thing, it was I had this weird experience of having a part of me like reject it, and another part of me was like, no, that's actually true.
Mhm.
Like that I can actually see the truth of it in even in my own life, and I've actually been getting in my own way because of this principle that I don't understand. So
if
it'll be good to talk about this today.
if
Yeah.
we, Tyler, if we and Ben now, because he's been involved with everything we do for so long, if we can't see that that principle isn't true at this point, then we're crazy. Because day in and day out, we talk to men who are Mr. Nice Guys showing up weak and trying to get their worth from their wives, and their wives are rejecting them as a result. Their wives are not wanting them as a result because they're making her the most important thing. So we see it, examples of it again and again and again. Um, and so it is a different thought. It's a different way of thinking, and it feels almost like unloving a little bit, but it's not. It's not that at all. The principle is that as a man, I know who I am unto myself. And when I say I know who I am, I understand my purpose. I understand what God made me for. I understand why I'm here on this earth. And then a woman, when she comes along, she doesn't need to give me those answers. And she's going to actually love, her femininity is going to love that I'm a man who is grounded in the knowledge of who I am and an understanding of who I am. So she'll be attracted to me. She'll want to be there with me as I go forward in my purpose. Um, and so it it does feel backwards from what we're taught. I think there's an epidemic of codependency,
Mhm.
especially among men toward women in our culture, that is really a problem, and we're really unconscious of it.
Mhm.
And there's few real masculine, in a healthy way, masculine men out there.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly because a lot of what our culture teaches us is that we need as men we need validation from women,
Yeah.
and we need that to be able to say we're okay. And I mean, I'm sure you both have experienced this. I mean, that's really what recovery is about. Is exactly what you said. Understanding who you are and being able to show up in every situation true to you. I
Yes.
have a good friend of mine in recovery that's been struggling in his marriage, and he's been talking about different things, and I keep going back to, hey, you need to be in your integrity as long as you're showing up
Mm-hmm.
authentic in the situation. Like, it doesn't matter what else happens, you're gonna feel much better,
Mm-hmm.
even if the you know the world is burning around you. As long as you're showing up in your integrity, it feels better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. You're I think you're getting right to it, and this kind of comes to like this concept. When you read that principle, and I want to back up for the people who haven't read the book, basically the claim inside the book is the essence of the claim is a man has to come to understand that his woman is not his top priority, and she doesn't want him to make her the pinnacle of his existence, basically. And that sounds weird because in Disney shows and in lots, and even a lot of the women that are listening right now are probably going like, actually, I do want to be that top priority. But we look at like typically what a woman wants in relationship to the masculine and to her man is that she's looking for stability, safety, security, and to be chosen and cherished, right? And what the principle of this quote is that if I am making her in essence my god, then she's the one who's having to manage all of this stuff, which makes it not safe. And you're not really choosing her, you're consuming her by doing that. One of the quotes in the book, I'll share the quote in the book because I think this quote is pretty spot on. And I'd love to hear comments from some of the people listening right now to this, because maybe you don't agree, but it says, a good woman will love the childlike part of you, but she wants your life to be guided by your deepest truths, not your untended childhood wounds. She wants to be with a man who's living according to principle, to the truth, to an understanding of the I am, who he is, and who God was designing him to be. And it feels safe to then be cherished inside of the world of a man who knows those things. Right.
That really spoke to me, especially as about the childhood wounds, because um, a lot of just catch everybody up. I am divorced officially now, and getting back into the dating world, I think a lot about past relationships and how I showed up in them, and all that. And it was pretty childish, and it was pretty um, wounded, really. I mean, can't really describe it any better. And I'm in an early relationship now with someone that I really enjoy, and dating later in life is difficult. It has its challenges, and what I keep going back to in the relationship is asking the question, what is true to me? And as long as I make that decision, it doesn't matter what else is going on. It doesn't matter if plans get canceled, or things don't show up, don't happen the way I expect them to. I still feel okay, because I'm still showing up as me, and I am okay.
The thing that, going along with what you're saying, Ben, the thing that destroys masculinity is our unknowing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our unknowing that we're loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there's voids or fears that we're not loved, then we turn and we ask that question to people. We can
Mm-hmm.
try to get it from our boss, we can try to get it from our family, but oftentimes we turn it right toward our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And if a woman is looking for stability and strength, they want to feel stability and strength from a man. And so when you're taking your unknowing to her and you're saying, "Am I okay? Am I okay?" It's please tell me I'm all right. Um, that feels the opposite of stability and strength. It's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of that. And so either way, like if she says, "Yeah, you're all right. You're great," and you're like, "Oh, good, phew, yeah, yay," or she says, "Yeah, you're screwed up. Like you're messed up," and you're like, "Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the." Neither one of those, either way it goes, neither one of those feels stable
Mm-hmm.
and strong. And so it's about really doing the work on your trauma to see why that unknowing is there. Where
Right.
has where has full validation and love been blocked from you in your life of
Mm-hmm.
knowing your divine potential and worth? And because of life experiences, because of the nature of this experience that we have here on this earth, we all have those wounds that we need to go deal with and sort through and figure out. And through that process is where we come back to that knowing. And once we have that knowing, then when she's up or she's down or she's every which way, we can stay grounded. We're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so Deida comes along with his book and he's like, "Hey guys, like, have purpose, stick to the purpose, don't worry about her so much." And he's right. But what he doesn't really talk about is, why are you showing up weak in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So any
Right.
thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah. So I know that for me, you know, one of the big reasons that I've not shown up in strength in the first place. Well, before getting the recovery, a big thing was that I never felt like I was enough. Which I'm sure that people looking at my life from the outside, like, would be surprised by that statement. But it wasn't until I went to an intensive therapy retreat that I I realized that I was enough. My counselor there challenged me. He was like, you need to figure out this question. And I sat and I thought about it, and I was like, okay, but why? And then I had an epiphany that kind of plays off of Descartes' "I think, therefore I am." It's I'm enough just because I am,
Yes.
simply because I exist.
Yes.
I am enough, and that was just such a huge mental shift for me. And I look at that as the real shift in me that led to recovery.
Yep.
And understanding that and recognizing that, and knowing that it doesn't matter what's going on around me. I'm enough, and I will be okay. And I showed this earlier, but the brief story behind this is when we were in Peru, Brandon found this for me, and he bought it, and he gave it to me, and it's something that I cherish for a variety of reasons. One of the things that it's been helping me with lately is a struggle that I've had goes back to some of my traumas, is that people don't show up for me. Um, and it's really easy to point to all the examples where people don't show up for me. And that reminds me that people do show up for me. There are people around that have nurtured me, and by carrying that with me, it helps me to remember that, and remember that there are a lot of people around me that are supportive of me and that do show up. And um, shoot, there's some place I was going with that, but I totally lost that train of thought now.
Well, I think you're fine.
Mm.
You're talking about like what Brannon had said was like the one thing that's kind of left out inside the book is how
Mhm.
do you actually address those inner wounds
Right.
of the child. And then you were talking about an experience that was beautiful, that what you shared. And just so our listeners who aren't watching, he held up a little stone that was in the shape of a heart, um, as he was talking. But you were just sharing so beautifully this idea of you had an experience that was actually counter to that false belief that has left you
Mhm.
living in that place of shame. And think of how simple this is, that you said the words, Ben, but I know that inside those words there was an actual heart kind of an experience, soul experience, when you like, I I'm enough because I am.
Mhm.
Right? Like, okay, like that's, we could say that 1,000 times, but something about you wrestling, going into yourself and having an actual emotional experience with those words was the thing that
Mhm.
started to be this catalyst to saying, wait a second, maybe that therefore means maybe I take care of myself in a different way. Maybe I see myself in a different way. Maybe I put myself in different arenas. Now, maybe I end up in Peru where a guy like Brannon can buy me a little stone shaped like a heart that means so much more than that, because it
Mhm.
means people do show up for me. Like, like
Right.
it's all of that little stuff that has to happen on a cellular body level,
Mhm.
not just in the mind.
Right. Yeah, and that's so true. One of the things that a phrase that I really like is that our brains are a don't get killed device. That's really all our brains tell us to do, is do stuff that you don't get killed, don't get hurt again, all that kind of stuff. And that, I think that's where I was going before, was that it's really easy for us to remember the hurts and remember that pain, because that's how we're hardwired naturally. Like our reptilian brain, however you want to describe it, is hardwired for that. And I think it's important for me, and I imagine it's important for everybody, to have reminders around, whether it be physical or physical is best, but reminders of the counter to whatever it is that negative core belief is. Just sticking with our example, having the negative core belief that people don't show up for me, and then being able to have that example that, yeah, people do. That helps our brains to get out of that. I'm in danger. I really need to run. The fight or flight experience, because we can reground ourselves to what's real. And most often, when we're in that situation, we're not really in danger. There's a podcast that I listen to that's called No Lions Here, and the the meaning behind that is that when we're in these moments of distress, particularly when we're out of recovery or out of our core, our foundation. Our brain is like, okay, there's a lion around the corner. We gotta be patient. We gotta run. We gotta be up and ready. But there really aren't any lions here. You'll be okay. You'll get through this. It's not as life threatening as it feels right now.
Yep. Most of our suffering is just in our own head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Isn't the Buddhist phrase something like pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice?
yeah. Yeah. And it comes back to what we were talking about on Monday with Dr. Paul of like, it is what it is. So if you start with it is what it is and you're neutral before you assign any real meaning to anything, like let's say someone says something mean to you, that's neutral. If someone says something nice to you, be neutral. Before you assign any meaning to it, then you can stay in an emotional state where you can create whatever you want from there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Um, I want to ask you kind of an analogy here. Maybe this is getting
Sure.
a little too deep here, but let's try it. I walked out of my front door this morning, um, and there was a little bit of snow and there's ice on my car. But I have a lot of maple trees in front of my house, and a lot of the leaves have fallen recently, and so there's all these beautiful yellow leaves all over the ground. And I looked down at one leaf, just one leaf, and it was yellow, and I just looked at it for a second. I thought that's really beautiful. Um, is that leaf enough?
I would say yes, it is. It is enough. It exists. I mean, I agree. This is a pretty deep one that we can really
Yeah,
get into a lot of different directions with. And I believe that everything in existence is enough.
yeah,
It's created. It's there, and you can look at it as, is it some way that it's fulfilling its own divine purpose? Yes, I would say it is. It's enough because it brings beauty. It's enough because it brought nutrition to the tree, and which then housed the different plants and or different animals, and provided shade. There's so many things that you can expand upon that one little leaf did, that contributed to just the world around it.
that's a
And it's
beautiful.
simply because it's enough, and because it existed.
That's a great answer. Yeah, that leaf is miraculous,
Mm-hmm.
and it's incredible what it does. And I don't think that leaf's laying there with an ego thinking, well, I should have fallen this way. And if I would have landed just that way, then I
Right.
would have been okay. But dang it, I'm over here in this spot and I should be over there. And, like all the other leaves are going to think that I'm like, a fraud. Like,
It's like
no.
my wife leaf is gonna hate me.
Yikes, I'm scared of her.
My kid leaves, thinks I'm a terrible dad.
Yeah. No, it's just enough. It's
Right.
miraculous. It's beautiful. And it's so hard to get back there with us. We have all this story
Mm-hmm.
all around us, and all that story is what takes us off of our power and our purpose and our masculinity, and destroys the polarity and the trust in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brannon, like what you're saying too, this kind of ties back into where Ben started his question with today too, is like that's part of what we're talking about here is we live in a world where the story is, for most of us, that you have to find the person who completes you. You have to find
Right.
it's like we're already living in a world that is hardwired with a story that's actually really unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just automatic. And so we just go and just bash our head against the wall over and over again until we pause and say, kind of like have the leaf moment and go like, wait a second, like that is all just story.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an alternative story that actually is maybe more true and would produce better outcomes? And
Mm-hmm.
what's weird about this question that you asked is like, think about this. And I don't know, Ben, if you have experience with this or not with certain men in your lives, but do you have men in your lives right now, in your life right now, that are actually living that principle? They've found and tapped into a greater truth inside of that truth, they're married to a woman that they love. And part of their truth is that they care for their woman, but they're committed to something bigger than that.
Mhm.
What are the outcomes that you see in the lives of those men?
I'm the biggest thing is peace. You know,
Yeah.
I know that personally when I was in my addiction, peace would never came. Like I one of the blessings that I have from recovery is that I don't have to have noise on all the time. Because before, if the noise stopped, then the thoughts came, and they were difficult to sit with. And you know, I enjoy lots of times with peace and you know, no noise going on, no podcasts or music or whatnot. And I'm not afraid of the thoughts. You know, they go all over the place. I'm always fascinated when I'm meditating a lot of times, and I'll just let the thoughts run and just kind of let them go wherever. And it's always it's always such a fun journey inside my mind where that goes. And I think that that's really what um, what masculinity is being at peace with yourself and having that and being I love the analogy of the oak tree um, as a representation of masculinity. It, oak trees are solid. They, you know, they're always there. They're always in the same spot. They're always able to. They're the same every time. You know what you're going to get when you interact with an oak tree every time. And thinking of that as a representation of true masculinity, I think is so accurate because when you are being masculine, when you are in yourself and you understand yourself and at peace with yourself, then people know what they're going to get from you every time. And I know that for me, having people like that in my life, it's so freeing to have that reliability.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond just reliability. It's like trust. It's
Mm-hmm.
I trust them because they feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not trying to be anything, trying to manipulate anything. I just know them, and so it feels safe, and I feel like I can really connect and just be there with them. And that ultimately is, I love the analogy of the oak tree too. As you know, we're talking about leaves and oak trees, and the analogy with masculinity is that the masculine is the tree, and it's rooted and it's grounded and it's firm, and the femininity is the wind, and the wind is really important because it knocks the leaves off and the seeds, and it moves things and it helps things grow. And um, but also the stability of the roots in the tree is really important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that polarity is where creation happens. Um, and so if you're if you're not grounded and you're not rooted and the wind comes and you fall over or you just go swirling in the wind, then that polarity's not there, and the safety's not there either.
Mm-hmm.
Something to go along with that, and I'll give another quote from the book here in a second. Is like we're having this conversation, and I think some men who are listening might be thinking like, "But man, I'm still afraid. I'm still, you know, this or that or the other." And I think it's okay to just acknowledge that we're afraid. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's part of actually planting our roots and becoming the tree.
Yes,
You
I
know,
agree.
the quote that I was thinking of is it says, "A fearful man who knows he is fearful is far more trustable than a fearful man who isn't aware of his own fear."
Mm-hmm.
And it's being able to own that and say, yeah, like I my current state of emotion is I am afraid of my wife sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I know that and I can acknowledge that, that's actually safer than like, no, yeah, I'm going to stand strong and
Mm-hmm.
pretend like it's like, no, but I now because I own it, I get to take ownership for my choices around that. Right. And that's how I plant the roots deeper. So it's okay to still be vulnerable. It's okay to still have like real emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but being honest with all of that is actually part of how you become, you know, the oak
Tyler,
tree.
this is a great point. You don't communicate this strength in any other way than honesty and authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have emotion, what you're saying is really important. It's not like, oh, I'm a strong man, so therefore I don't get emotional. I'm a strong man, so therefore I don't have fear. I don't, I just stand firm and with my roots. No, your firmness with your roots is shown through your authenticity,
Hmm.
through your honesty, right? So
Hmm.
that's a great point.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And a principle that has helped me to be more authentic is Tony Overbay's podcast, the Virtual Couch, talks a lot about acceptance and commitment. You can accept where you're at, and yeah, I accept that I'm fearful. I accept that I have a lot of fear towards my wife right now, and I can commit to do different. I
Mhm.
can commit to show up in this different way. I can commit to doing this differently. But having that acceptance is so empowering. For a lot of time, and particularly in my addiction, I thought that I was an addict. I either felt like I had to fight it or just give into it. And now I accept. Okay, sure. That's something. It was a tool that I used that got me to a different point. Got me to where I am in life right now, and I can choose to do a different thing. I can choose to find a different way that works better for me. I don't have to fight the things in my life that I'm not happy with. I can accept that they're there, and I can look for ways to do it differently.
Absolutely. You show your strength when you can accept what is,
Hmm.
when you can actually step in to what is and face that reality. Ben, we're running low on time. I could sit and have this conversation with you all day long. This has been awesome.
This has been great.
Yeah. Tyler, any last words?
No, man, Ben, it's just always nice to see your face. It's like
Thanks, man.
we've had little touch points. I know you came to the retreat
Hmm.
and then you've been on the show a few times. I know you've crossed paths in other ways a little bit. And it's just thank you for the work you're doing, for what you're who you're trying to become. I love the topic today. I really do. It's something that I personally am in process in my own life all the time. I'm having, even as we're talking right now, I'm having my own thoughts of like, oh yeah, I could do this and I need to do that.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate the conversation today. And I love that you came on, Ben. So thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's always great coming on here, and I think that Tyler, you pointed out a really cool principle that when you're connecting with people, and particularly on the level that we have in this conversation, it inspires you to look for ways to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
and
that's happening for some people who are listening too.
yeah.
Right?
And I just want to say, before we wrap up, we shifted over to this YouTube thing, and just the comments are awesome. I'm checking them out here, and they're amazing. And there's just a lot of thank yous to you, Ben, and just a lot of good people in here listening and going through their own processes of recovery as well. So thank you guys for listening. You guys, if this was helpful, please share it or leave a review over on our podcast. And until next time, keep on keeping on.
See you guys.